On the topic of climate, one of the more interesting things to talk about is supportive and defensive climates, which are caused by supportive and defensive communication. What is defensive behavior? Defensive behavior is behavior which occurs when an individual perceives threat or anticipates threat in a group. So anytime somebody perceives threat doesn't mean it actually has to be a threat, but anytime a receiver perceives threat, they're likely to act in a way that's defensively. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. First, somebody that's behaving defensively is going to devote a lot of their time, a lot of their energy to defending themselves rather than working together or trying to solve a group's problem. Secondly, defensive behavior tends to foster defensive behavior in others. This is consistent with the property of conflict interaction and a theme that's important in this course in that we're often influenced by the moves of other people, by the actions, by the communication of other people, and that tends to influence what we do. So defensive behavior tends to foster defensive behavior in others. We're going to talk through Jack Gibbs' 6 paired categories on supportive and defensive communication. And I think these are really useful because they are specific kinds of communication behaviors that actually influence whether or not a supportive climate is created or a defensive climate is created. So I hope you had a chance to watch that couple-minute clip out of the opening scenes from When Harry Met Sally. If you haven't done that, I would suggest pausing this video and doing that because I'm going to use that as an example of these paired categories of supportive and defensive behavior. Our first paired category is evaluation, which is a defensive behavior, and description, which is a supportive behavior. Evaluation is behavior that is perceived as being judgmental. Anytime somebody does something that we perceive as being judgmental, we're likely to react in a defensive way. In the When Harry Met Sally video clip, one of the things that you see is Harry kind of accusing Sally of being a happy person. And normally this would be seen as something as a compliment, but in the context, saying things like, oh, you're one of those people who dots their I's with little hearts. Being a happy person was communicated as something that was judgmental, and as you can see, Sally reacts in a very defensive kind of way. The supportive behavior is description and does not imply receiver change behavior or attitudes, and wouldn't be nearly as funny in the video, but it would be behavior that would not try to say being happy or being dark is bad, but being open to the way somebody is. The next one that I want to talk about and give an example from is control versus problem orientation. Control is a defensive behavior. It attempts to alter the ideas, behaviors, attitudes, etc. of another person. We see an example of control right off in that clip when Sally says that she has all of the driving assignments mapped out. We can take these shifts, everybody does 3-hour shifts. And you can see right away that Harry reacts in a defensive way. He kind of reaches into the back seat and ignores her, and part of that is a response to her not being open to kind of working out the schedule together, but rather setting something and controlling it herself. Problem orientation is the supportive behavior. It indicates the desire to collaborate on defining a problem and finding a solution. She could have easily said something like, why don't we work out a schedule, or what are you interested in doing as far as the schedule, and this might have changed the climate. The last one that I want to talk about is Neutrality versus empathy. Neutrality is the defensive behavior, and while we often think of neutrality as something that's positive, in this case, neutrality indicates a lack of awareness for the welfare of others. When we perceive that others don't have our welfare, our good fortune in mind, it tends to make us defensive. There's a number of examples of neutrality in the movie. One of the first is when Sally's talking and Harry reaches into the back to grab the grapes. He then proceeds to spit on her window. He doesn't apologize. He just says, "Oh, I should roll down the window." In this case, we're seeing examples of neutrality, lack of awareness for the welfare of others. Empathy, on the other hand, shows concern for the individual, very much something that we appreciate, and this kind of behavior is something that tends to create a supportive climate in a group. Lots of examples of empathy later on in the movie when Harry and Sally get together. So in these three examples, we can see how their communication can create a defensive or supportive climate. There are other examples from the other three paired categories from the movie, and I would encourage you to take another look and see if you can find examples of those.